What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today we're going to be discussing a bunch of the strange and mysterious things surrounding Destiny 2 that have been teased by Bungie, and also how they tie into some of the cool things we'll be able to do in-game as well. So the first thing is something I want to talk about which is pretty strange, and it was shown off during the Destiny 2 gameplay reveal event, and a lot of people picked up on this, but no one really knows what it means. And this is to do with those weird symbols that were on Luke Smith's hoodies. I don't think many of us were paying attention at the time because we were busy watching the reveal, but Luke Smith, the director for Destiny 2, who we know by now is always teasing the community with cryptic Easter eggs like this, he had this gold symbol on his hoodie when he first came out to reveal Destiny 2, and then 10 minutes later, after the first mission was shown off, he comes back on stage, but he changed his hoodie for some reason, and they had different, more mysterious blue symbols on them. And if you know Luke Smith and you know how much he loves teasing things like this, he was the one to actually create one of the biggest mysteries of Destiny 1, which is the 7th chest in the Vault of Glass, which obviously had the community asking for years if there actually is one, trying to solve the mystery. But the other Bungie developers on stage as well also had symbols on their clothing. So Mark Noseworthy was wearing the logo of one of the new weapon foundries in Destiny 2, and also Steve Cotton had the logo of the Lost Sectors, which are hidden symbols to find in Patrol. So the symbols on both of Luke Smith's hoodies definitely mean something. Now, Reddit did of course pick up on this, and a lot of people over there were trying to figure out the meaning of these symbols. Now, one post I saw there from a user called Damos compared them to some really interesting symbols in the Alpha Loopy experience, which some of you might remember was the original ARG for Destiny 1 when it got first revealed. It was basically a really super complicated puzzle where you had to match strange symbols to patterns of stars in our solar system and unlock even more cryptic information. It was really complicated and definitely a massive ARG. And the blue symbols do kind of correlate to the symbols and lines you can see on this big picture. And also something I thought of is that you ever look closely at the Traveler, you'll notice it's got a lot of lines and circles engraved into it, but mainly these very big circles, which do look similar in my opinion. So either way, no one really knows what these symbols mean. All we can do is speculate, but you can guarantee a year from now, we'll probably look back and realize what they relate to. Of course, the one thing we do know about the story mission so far is the Speaker has actually gone missing after the Cabal attacked the Traveler and the city, so maybe we go and find out in a story mission to do with the Traveler and the Speaker. But yeah, some very strange symbols. What do they mean? Comment down below your thoughts, but something very interesting I want to share with you guys. So the next thing I want to talk about is to do with the Grimoire in Destiny 2, and essentially how the story is going to be told for the game, but not through Grimoire cards. They've actually been removed, if you haven't heard already. It's been a pretty big topic, but Bungie at the reveal announced there will not be Grimoire cards anymore. They're simply being removed, so they won't be on Bungie.net. You can't go there to read more detailed lore about the game. Now, they've done this because apparently they want to actually tell a story in a game, which does in theory sound like a good thing as long as it's done properly, but this is what Steve Cotton said in an interview. The answer to the question about Grimoire cards is no, and the reason is no because he wants to put the lore in the game. All the story is told through adventures, it's told through characters in the world, it's told through the campaign, and it's told through scannables you'll find throughout the world. So it's a pretty big step for them to actually remove such a core feature of the storytelling in Destiny 2, but it's something that was very criticized in Destiny 1 because a lot of people didn't want to go to an external website to have to read about things. They wanted it to be in-game, so Bungie has essentially answered what people wanted and done that. Of course, at this point, we don't know exactly what extent the story is in the game, whether they're going to be really detailed. Because, for example, the Books of Sorrows with the Taken King, that was a massively detailed kind of like story of Oryx, where he came from, why he's at war with the Traveler, and essentially his entire backstory, which was incredibly detailed. And you wouldn't even believe the amount of detail that isn't in the game, but at least it was there and you could read it if you wanted to. But now there isn't that option, so now it's all in game and you have to hope the storytelling is as detailed as it is in those Grimoire cards. One key thing he did mention is how it's going to be told through adventures, which is a new feature in Destiny 2. So in the patrol mode, adventures is essentially a new thing alongside patrol missions and dungeons and everything else. Adventures are supposed to be kind of a mix between a story mission and a mini quest, but more story driven in itself in terms of learning a character and getting lore essentially. According to Bungie, they're supposed to be around 10 to 15 minutes long, and it involves you actually going around with an NPC. As you can see here, this character in the church tower in the European Dead Zone with the No Land Beyond or the weapon like it. But this NPC inside the adventure is going to be another storytelling mechanic, and then apparently once you're done with that, each adventure is going to give you a treasure map, and then the loot you get from that is supposed to be unique to each adventure. So essentially, stuff you won't find anywhere else and should be some pretty decent rewards. Now, one pretty cool thing that I noticed in the build that we played in LA was in the menu, so the inventory screen, you can press L2 to actually show the lore on items, which is very interesting. Obviously, the ability wasn't fully there, so you can actually see the lore. It just showed like the level 200. Obviously, in the full game, this will be a feature, and we'll have to see what this is like how much detail it goes into with the items. So this should be another way to actually get some more story out of the items. And you also, of course, have the scannables, which are very similar to the Taken King. That was when they first introduced, if you remember, those weird anomalies and objects you could scan. And the ghost would tell you a little bit of lore about them and backstory. So that's basically the direction that Bungie is going in with their storytelling. And it's definitely a risky move, because if the story in-game isn't that great, that's basically it, because there's going to be nothing outside the Grimoire cards that you can read on Bungie.net. So that's why a lot of people are definitely very on edge right now, hoping the in-game story is good. But of course, we're going to have to wait and see, just like everything in Destiny 2. So the cool thing is that those adventures which I mentioned, those actually tie into other activities in the patrol mode called Lost Sectors, which I'm sure you've heard about by now. But those are essentially dungeons, so think like Legend of Zelda, go into a cave full of enemies and there's a chest to unlock. Once you kill the boss and all the enemies in there, you'll be able to unlock the chest and hopefully get some good loot out of it. That's what's going to be in all the patrol zones on all the planets, and you can find them either by doing an adventure and the character will point you towards the direction of where these lost sectors are, or you can simply patrol by yourself and try and find it without being told from the adventure. You need to look for a symbol like this one on the wall or a floor or in the area, and that will kind of signify where the lost sector is. So there seems to be many kind of ways the activities in patrol kind of tie into each other. Of course, you still do have patrol missions, the classic ones you can do. There are also ambient encounters, there are materials and chests to farm, public events which now have heroic objectives which are optional. So they're basically like challenge modes for these public events. So similar to the raid, you can choose to do it in a more difficult way and of course get more rewards. And those public events are now marked on your map publicly, so you have to use a website to try and wander around and hope when they're going to pop up. You can simply look on the map and there'll be a countdown timer telling you when and exactly where those events are going to take place. So it does seem like Patrol has been fleshed out quite a lot more now, and there's hopefully a lot more to do with all these activities. Obviously, it's not going to be on the same level as Skyrim. I mean, it's still Destiny, but at least there's a lot more to do than just Patrol missions and the occasional bounty. So a lot of sweeping changes to how Patrol will work, and also the removal of Grimoire. But of course, if done right, it should mean a lot of really good things for storytelling in-game, which is what people have asked for, so we'll have to wait and see. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, a like rating would be much appreciated. Comment down below your thoughts. Do you like the fact that Grimoire is now in-game, or do you think there should be also an option to have the Grimoire cards online that you can read? Of course, subscribe for many more Destiny 2 videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.